There you go. So you can do like a little swivel in your chair or something like that. That's right. Good morning, everybody. And thank you to the realtors and the partners that we have on this, for your participation. I mean, the market's insane. So I just want to acknowledge the fact that like the agents on this jam session, they're not getting paid for this. They're doing this out of the kindness of their heart. Yeah, obviously to sharpen one another. But I mean, it's like these are the agents who want to give back and just make the overall real estate community better. I have heard time and time again, I mean, yeah, realtors they're great marketers. They're good at getting prospects and keeping their pipeline full. But I mean, equally as important is those relationships with the colleagues. And so I appreciate everybody's, your willingness to carve this hour out in this insanely market, because I know, yeah, it's relationship building, but this is not a direct income producing activity. And I understand, like, I just want to say thank you. I mean, there's just other more important things that everybody can be doing right now. But I also think that I'm a very big believer that high tide raises all ships. And as you can see with our masthead, sorry, is it there? I'm on the virtual background, connecting, elevating, and inspiring. This is the connecting parts where we connect when it's been difficult to just rally in large groups. I mean, it looks like CDC, I think it's 50, it might be 100 now opening up. So God willing, I'm not going to put a date on it, but God willing, we will have an event late summer, early fall, maybe sooner. I always laugh at the at this point, end of March last year. I remember having dinner with dinner plans with one of my good friends, and he goes, you know what? I think this COVID thing's real. Like, let's reschedule this in 2 weeks when this whole COVID thing is over. And here we are, right? 15 minutes. So I'm gonna have the realtors. We got some great agents on here. The realtors introduce themselves briefly, then the partners, and then we're gonna start jamming because let's face it, nobody wants to hear my voice, myself included. And so with that being said, Diana, why don't you go ahead and kick us off and introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Diana Ivas. I am with Berkshire Hathaway in Hinsdale, serving the western suburbs. And I've been in real estate for probably too long, about 32 years. I think Diane's next.
Okay, I'm Diane Coyle. I've been in since 1983, so I've been in longer. And I work at Platinum Partners. I'm a founding partner in Downers Grove.
Fantastic. Nathan Stillwell, John Green Realtor. Been a broker for 17 years, right out of college, and got a lot left in the tank here.
Sounds good.
Hi guys, Chase Michels, Baird & Warner Hinsdale. I have been a residential broker for 7 years and a commercial broker for about 4. Do about 95% of our business in Downers Grove, but western suburbs is what we serve.
Right on. And Pete, we appreciate you being on, even though being a little under the weather. So I just want to take this time to acknowledge our partners on this call. I mean, we pride ourselves in being a non-pay-to-play platform for realtors. When you see a realtor featured in Real Producers, hence the name Real Producers, the branding is very intentional. They're not paying for it. Realtors get the features based on nominations and their sales volume. It's kind of like you gotta be good at what you do and produce, but also you gotta have a good reputation. I allow realtors to nominate other realtors, and I feel it just solidifies that community. But the reason I can do what I do is our partners. Like, I literally am nothing. I have a different job. If people don't believe in this platform and just want to connect with realtors and help funnel their success, I don't. So like, I just want to say this has been a crazy 15 months. The reason we still have a platform is for people like Michael, Tia, and Margaret. So one thing, you guys didn't know this, you unofficially sponsored the app today. Yeah, I get requests all. Can you guys see that okay? I don't even know if the screen share works super good.
Yep.
We have a digital version. People ask me all the time, hey, do you guys have a PDF or an electronic version? It is a private app. The platform and the hard copy are catered to the top 500 agents. People will get the physical hard copy based on their sales volume from the previous year. However, the app is one creative way that everybody can have access to the platform. So if you, they'll probably start charging for it eventually, but it's called Digipub, DIGAP as in Paul, U as in umbrella, B as in boy. If you download it, you get a copy of it on your phone. Even if you never look at it, you'll be grandfathered in if they do start charging for it someday. So I've been encouraging people to do that, especially if you want access to all the past issues. So that being said, I'm going to give the partners, thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for keeping us afloat. Give the partners a chance to introduce themselves, and we're going to start jamming. So Tia, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Thank you, Andy. It's an honor to be here today. I truly appreciate you letting me have on your panel. My name's Tia. I'm with Home Warranty of America, HWA. We've been servicing the real estate professionals for over 25 years. I currently service the Northwest area suburbs. I work with two lovely ladies, Leanne Luckett and Kim Bazillion in Illinois. And I've been servicing realtors and our clients for 6 years, since 2015. Thanks again, guys.
Yeah, nice to have you.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Margaret, and I'm one of the founding owners of Chicagoland Home Staging. We started staging 16 years ago right here in the western suburbs and are still going strong. We appreciate partnering with all the realtors that are out here, and happy to be here.
Good morning, everybody. Michael Patti from Castle Home Inspection. We've been serving the Chicagoland area for about 30 years now with home inspection and radon testing needs. I've been with the company for 6 years now, and we are loving this market. It's been crazy.
And I want to say this is the Michael Patti, not to be confused with an ordinary Michael Patti. I just want to throw that out there.
The one and only.
The one and only. But hey, this is the part where I get out of the way. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, which is why we do these we do these once a week, one Chicago, one DuPage. So I mean, let's start jamming. When we were pre-gaming, Diana, you had a great topic. So why don't you go ahead and kick us off with that, and we'll go from there.
Okay, one of the topics that seems very up and coming now that you see a lot, especially if you're doing larger homes. I sell homes in Oak Brook and Burr Ridge, and it seems like a lot of people want other family members to live with them. So if you have a house with the first floor bedroom and bath, that seems to be very wanted these days. So I wonder what other people are seeing with that. And also maybe Margaret, does anybody ask you to stage it that way when a house, has an office or a bedroom that could be for multi-generational living?
We actually get asked that a lot. I find that in some areas we get asked more than others, but where you are in the Oak Brook, Burr Ridge area, a little bit in Naperville, but we are often partnering with you, asking you how you're going to market it, who's your demographic, who we're trying to appeal to, and we can actually adjust and change the presentation of a property to appeal to who we're trying to target. So yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like I know in some of my houses, I'm not sure if I should have this room be an office or, a bedroom. So there's a lot of options, I guess. So you've got to focus that.
It sort of changes too. So it changes based on the year, the time, the market. So, I mean, look at now with the pandemic, right? Everybody wanted a home office. Well, they weren't near as important 2 years ago. So, now it's more important. But sometimes you have to carve out a space then and make it happen, even if it's not there.
Diana, do you ever virtually stage it different ways so that they could see, like, if this is how it would look as an office, this is what it would look like as a bedroom? How so that they have options of, hey, we're looking for this because depending on the person.
Yeah, that's true. Usually I just say it in the remarks that they use it as an office, but it could be used as it's got the bath there. But that's a good idea to have your pictures say, do one thing, but right after that, do a virtual staging of it the other way.
Just an idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So what else is happening out there with you guys? So obviously it's been a crazy market, right? So everything's selling super fast. I mean, I know you guys had some other stuff that you were thinking about talking about, but I'm so intrigued with this private network. So I feel like, you know, there was a boom, right? And then, well, I've been around long enough to know what the private network, the listing network is, but all of a sudden now every house seems to be going on it first. And I find it interesting that some agents that we work with put it on there and then they wait until it becomes live before they accept offers. And then other agents actually accept the offers, work the deal, they're sold, we're picking them up before they've ever even gone on the MLS. Anybody want to comment on that?
I think the MLS has recently changed how we search the private network as well, which has been a total pain in the butt. You used to be able to have an idea what was going on private wise, but now it's really, you got to dig in there. So I found it to be relatively difficult, but yeah, people are with Zenlist and all these other options out there now. Your clients are seeing the private stuff and are trying to get in, demanding to get in, and you can't get in there because they're in the private, but not showing until they go live. And then sometimes they say that and they're selling while in that private, and it's creating a lot of frustration, I know, for a lot of agents and buyers alike. And, you know, then the buyers start questioning what you're doing as an agent, you know, if you're missing something or, you know, not able to get in. So it's been a challenge, I think, in the private for sure. I don't know if people really understand how to use it. And there's just different accessibility levels now.
Nathan, I agree with you. It is confusing. And sometimes I think, well, why don't you just put it in the regular, you know, MLS when you're ready, when they're ready. I don't know. It's just, but you have to adapt, but it is a little challenging.
I've had a few that I've sold in the private that basically there's a reason they're in the private. Usually it's they're not ready yet for professional photos or they're still getting ready, but it, you know, you explain it to the agent that, you know, they can show it, but they still haven't done this, this, and this. And then I've had it where that maybe that they couldn't close for like 6 months. So, but they would show people if people could do it. And I've had several sell in there. I've never had it where, you know, I'm waiting till it activates because I think that's, you know, just irritating buyers and other agents. But that's my
Diane, when you do that, I always feel like if I show it before they're totally ready, you know, with staging and with everything perfect, that maybe they're not going to get the best price.
You know what? I think in this market, people are they're so low inventory that they're ready to hop. And I think sometimes buyers feel like, wow, I got this one that's not even yet on the market yet. And they feel special. But I've had it and it's just been incredible. You know how where, you know, I have one now that's totally not ready. And so that has no showings.
Mm-hmm.
So, but all the rest of them, if it's just a few things, you know, clutter, they've been selling. And,
Yeah.
you know,
I agree with Diane too.
The
I think
price
it's,
range too.
yeah, I'm not in your price point usually.
Yeah.
I think it's a good opportunity for potential buyers to realize that there is something down the block coming on the market. Because right now, as you know, all these buyers, I feel like are sometimes forcing offers just to get into something. And when you know that, you know, your seller is going to be on here in 3-4 days and this pops up as a coming soon, you feel like you got another property that you have an opportunity to get, you know. And I feel like it's a great way for everybody to see what's coming on market in the near future without having to force another property they might not be crazy about.
Right.
Yeah, and buyers are ready to jump really quickly. We're having buyers at home inspections coming into the inspection saying, I don't care if you find, we're going to take this house because the inventory is so low.
Michael, I missed that. What were you saying?
I was saying that we've been having some clients lately who are coming into the home inspection saying, it doesn't matter what you tell us or what we find, we're buying this house because inventory is so low. So it kind of tells you how people are thinking and how frantic people seem to be about really making sure they're getting a hold of something.
And if a house isn't too good after the inspection, are they still taking it, or do they change their mind, or have you even had that come up?
Just had someone last week who was adamant during the home inspection based upon the stuff we were finding that, oh, I'm not taking this house, ended up taking the house because they couldn't find anything else in that price point.
Wow.
Michael, have you seen a lot of people waiving the inspection?
A lot of people what?
Waiving the inspection entirely?
No, I think we're still kind of hoping to spread the word that even if you're buying a home as is, it's a good idea to get a house inspected to at least know what you're walking into. But no, people still, so far, knock on wood, people still seem to understand that, that's one of those things you just don't skip over.
Yeah.
That's another frustrating thing that I found, that people are coming in as is, and then they on the inspection, this is not major stuff. They're writing down all the things they would have written down if it wasn't sold as is. And it's
Right.
like, I think, and you accepted that offer because it was as is, maybe, versus the other one, which is very frustrating because they're basically, lying. They're just trying to get in the house. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's so unfair to the seller. But Tia, I'm sure you're having a lot of business these days because of giving home warranties to some of these people, to some of the buyers.
Yeah, it's definitely well, it's been a roller coaster. Generally with the market being a buyer's market, we have the seller providing the home warranty for the buyer. However, now it's more of either our real estate agents providing it as a closing gift, or their agents simply educating the buyer of the option to buy one on their own. However, with the home inspection, if they do not have a home inspection completed during that transaction, home warranties do not cover that under the real estate plan. So it is important that they do get that home inspection completed.
Diane, you talked about, like the multiple offers. I haven't been in that situation, just maybe having 2 offers, but I know, Chase, Nathan, have you had them where there's like 10 offers or 15 offers?
Yeah, 20 offers.
Yeah,
You
there
have
was one in
what,
Downers with
20?
20 offers on it.
Yeah,
There's cash offers involved. I think the cash offer was the first one that was accepted and one we were involved in, but you're definitely in deals that there's 10, 15 offers, especially in some of the city stuff as well. Wicker Park and Logan Square. There's some interesting properties.
Romeoville, Plainfield, those are really hot areas where you see 28 offers on things. It's just,
it's
like
all price
crazy.
point, right?
Yeah.
But doesn't the selling agent, the listing agent, like, when do you stop?
they
when
all
is
come
the-
in right away. It's not like they're waiting necessarily. This is not like, oh, we waited a week for this. There's that many buyers and that few inventory. I've seen, and it's crazy. It's frustrating when you have a buyer because you're coming in, 20, 30,000 over. You're saying you'll wait, the appraisal will make the difference up, but you're still not getting them.
Yeah.
It's tough out there.
I think the toughest part.
I sold a condo in Downers Grove just from a video, because the woman was going into a assisted living and she didn't want to have people in there. And I sold it with the double offer on the first day, sight unseen. So I thought that was pretty cool, but nowhere near what other people are going through with all these multiple offers.
Yeah,
But,
it's challenging. It's challenging on both ends, I think, too, as a listing agent and a buyer's agent, because you're trying to sift through, who's real, who's the most committed. I've been telling people when I'm submitting offers, I said, hey, look, the offer you pick is as important as the agent representing that offer you pick, right? Because we're going to get it to the finish line. We're going to coach our clients. They trust us. We're using great inspectors. We're using great lenders. We're not going to have any shenanigans in this transaction. And I've just been seeing some crazy stuff out here with, the as is a joke. It's not worth anything. It's not even a differentiator anymore. Because if it's radon, if it's something, I understand health safety, and I tell my sellers, look, if something big comes up, this is going to be a problem for the next buyer. Let's work through it. But all the GFCI stuff, all the light switch doesn't work. It's crazy. The light bulbs are burnt out, and you're like, we're 2 weeks into the process. We can't go back on the market. It looks like a black eye. We got to navigate this a little bit. On the buying side,
Another thing that I found very interesting, that I never even thought about, all the love letters that people are writing, that I have, I can't wait to raise my family, and, I can visualize, and we are all guilty of that too. But that when you took the managing broker class, they said that that could be lawsuits of discrimination. Because, so you'd be very, very careful, especially if you put a picture of the family and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah, no, I agree.
You know how as a selling agent or as a buyer's agent, we can get a lot of trouble. And I never even thought of that because, you know, you always try everything. So you're putting in the love letter and all this. But let's say, you know, one has, you know, a current living situation and they pick the other one, you know, even if it's right or wrong, you know how, or even if that had nothing to do with it, they can sue. Just something to think about.
And Diane, I feel like that doesn't really differentiate it in anybody anymore because everybody's doing it, you know?
Right. But
So
I just,
right now
I
it
tell you,
feels
I
like-
never thought of it, you know?
Yeah, definitely. But cash, it seems to be cash is king when you're working, you know, at least
Right.
with the buy side. And it's tough to, I think, justify to buyers, hey, let's go in 35,000 over this list price. And they say, why? It's listed at 599. Why would we go on at anything?
Right.
You know, it's tough to justify 40, 50,000 over, and that's where this is going to sell to anyone. So I think it
Until
makes it
they
a little
start
tougher.
seeing it. I
Yeah.
think people don't believe us until they get burned a couple times and they say, you know, maybe we should have listened.
Yeah.
You know?
Are you guys experiencing a lot of buyer fatigue? I mean, they're getting so
Yeah.
discouraged, and you know, we become counselors. We're like trying to keep these guys engaged, positive.
I think we're working a lot harder
Wow.
because, you know, you have to keep on finding houses and it's like frustrating and multiple offers. And how about the close contingency? That's another thing. Here's some people have to get a contract on their house before they buy. Now you're in a multiple offer situation and you have a close contingency. Even though it's a solid deal, you're still going to be, you know, the first one knocked out.
It's almost impossible in my
So many
experience.
people
Like,
need to do that, you know?
and it's almost unfair to, you know, FHA, VA buyers, lower down payment. I mean, you don't have a shot when you're competing against 20% plus cash. People are giving their kidneys to get a house right now. It's like, I don't know what else we're going to see them offering up. You know,
I think we have to find creative ways where we can do it without the closed contingency.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
how to find, there's a person, lender who said that they could put a different amount down and things in creative ways, you know how, so, or get a relative who said, hey, if this doesn't close, I'll cover it, you know, just to get them in the ballpark,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
running.
Agreed.
Mhm.
And I feel
Where
like it's
does
a lot of the people
where does
coming from the city, at least in my experience, sorry, Diana. I feel like it's a lot of people that are getting aggressive that are coming from downtown Chicago and moving to the suburbs that want a little bit more space. You know, people that are already in the burbs, it's one thing, but with COVID kind of having shut down all the city entirely, people are getting a little bit more aggressive. I feel like first time buyers coming from here that have been renting in, you know, small apartment buildings or condos or whatever it may be. Those are the people that I see that are being the most aggressive with, hey, let's look at a house in Downers. If that doesn't work, let's look at one in Naperville. If that doesn't work, let's check out Wheaton. They don't really have any set parameters. They're a little bit more fluid in what they're looking for.
And they also have condos in the city where they probably could rent them, you know, they don't have to sell them.
Exactly.
Yeah, or else, like you said, Chase, they're already coming from a rental. So
Mhm.
it makes it a lot easier.
Another situation we've gotten into is where we have a buyer in a deal and all of a sudden the seller hasn't found anything. And so we had one where they pushed out the closing because of the seller. Well, we had to extend the financing because they needed certain things within, you know, 3 weeks before the closing. Because the seller didn't find anything, he canceled the contract.
Oh,
And
God.
we had that happen twice.
Mm.
And
Was
because the
that a
seller didn't find
contingency
anything.
already? Was that a
What?
contingency from day one?
Well, when it was a first time home buyer, so it was just a financing. The
No,
seller,
but did the seller have that contingency from day
No.
one?
no,
Because
they
sometimes
thought they could
do.
find something and they didn't find anything. So they found the first opportunity that they could kill the deal.
Was that still an attorney's approval or?
No,
Oh,
they asked for a later closing. So the buyer said, okay. Certain lenders need certain things. They have to wait certain amount of time before the closing.
right.
You know what I mean? To get clear to close, they have to do the rechecking the job and all that. So the attorney just did a basic, you know, extend the financing and the seller said, no, cancel the contract.
Oh,
And the buyer would have gotten the financing. So we waived the financing contingency. He waived it and they still said no.
So easy to get
because they
out of
can't find a
contract.
house.
You know,
And I think that's a good point in general, Diane, is that, everybody's saying to sellers, it's a hot market, you should sell. But as soon as you sell, where do you go?
Right.
Because now you're on the other side and you're a buyer, say in that same hot market, competing against all these other buyers.
And we had it
So-
happen
That's
twice
why-
to us.
That's why our inventory is so low, because nobody wants to, take the chance that they can't find anything. And a lot of people in my area, and I'm sure in your areas, they're moving to Florida, they're moving to
Oh, yeah.
North Carolina, South Carolina. And I have so many people where they can't find anything there, so they're just staying here where it would be nice to have their house on the market.
Right. Oh, those areas are even hotter than ours.
I know. I just sold a house in Hinsdale and I sold it in May, we're closing in June. And the seller who lives in Florida says, Diana, that seems to be like a long time, 35 days. I'm like, oh my God, that's really good, 30 days. Well, he goes, well, in Florida, we close in, 10 days. And I'm like, well, that's Florida, this
Yeah.
is Illinois. So we're dealing with that too, where people are going to states that are much easier to sell in than we're finding.
What does everybody think about the state of the industry? So from my perspective, we're probably staging, 30 houses a month. So I just see and track those. But do you feel like it's changing with all these offers? I feel like maybe it's starting to slow down a little. I could be wrong, but not having the crazy 15 offers. Kind of depends on where you are, but has anybody noticed a change? They feel like from a month or two ago that it's starting to balance out at all? Or do you feel like this is going to be going on for, the whole year? What are your thoughts?
I don't see it slowing down with multiple offers because the inventory still hasn't.
Yeah, I agree with Diane. I think there's going to be a lot of deals made pretty quickly as soon as people are a little bit more comfortable getting on the market here, because there's still a lot of buyers out there. And I think there's just a little bit of hesitation for a lot of sellers. Let's just make sure this whole COVID and the vaccine thing sorted to get wrapped up here. And then I think a lot of those houses are going to come together pretty quickly. And this kind of summer.
I think a lot of sellers that had planned to sell last year that shut it down because of COVID, our parents' generation, the empty nesters.
Hey, watch it, Nathan.
You're 29 years old. I'm the old guy here. The empty nesters that are that people are moving out of state, right? And so they're all coming to, get into the market, riding a wave. A lot of them waited 10 years for the market to come back, from this crash, 15 years ago. They're finally back at value. They feel good about where they're going. And so I think we should see some inventory improvement, but I don't think it's going to catch up to the buyer demand. I think we got 18, 24 months of pretty strong positive right now. As long as rates stay normal and
all the forgiveness and all that, do you think that we're going to get a bunch of foreclosures once all that's lifted?
I've been pretty tight on that, and I did a lot of REO early in my career when I worked at Ryan Hill Realty, and I don't think it'll ever come back to what it was. I think you'll have a concentrated, but I think investors have been waiting.
Yeah.
At the beginning of COVID, people really thought that there was going to be this huge downturn, and investors were chomping at the bit, and it never came. It actually went the other direction, as we all are feeling. So it'll happen, but I don't know that it'll be a blip, I think.
So Margaret, pre-COVID, what were your numbers like monthly? How many were you staging?
We were staging about the same. I would say right now we're staging more than we ever have in all the years. So we're out so far. It's like 5 weeks. It's crazy. So it's like we're generally working with your buyer or your sellers when they're preparing, when they're prepping, when they're thinking about it. So it's crazy how many people from our perspective are getting ready to come on. I think everybody kind of understands now that visual really matters, the photos matter, the videos that you're showing to people selling quickly matter. So I find they're doing just as much, if not more prep.
It's interesting. By the way, if you guys haven't ever used Margaret, absolute rock star. Their team is great. Always had success with them every single time we've used them. Never want to spend the money, but it's definitely worth it. And the results are always very, very good, especially for difficult listings. They've always performed on a high level. So easy to work with, very directive, like to kick us out of the house and do their thing. And they're awesome.
Kick us
Thanks,
out of the house.
Yeah.
Kick us out of the house.
I agree, Margaret. You do a great job. I mean, all stagers do a great job, just welcoming the people in and staging the front of the house, not just having people go right to the back to the family room. There's a whole philosophy, I think, which is great. It's nice for us to learn that too.
Thank you. It makes a difference. I mean, statistically, we watch them. We watch where we do consultations. We watch where we're doing full stages. We compare when they're living there versus not living there. So, I mean, just like you're selling houses super quick, it's shocking how fast. We haven't had one house go more than 30 days in about 6 months. So it is amazing. All price points too. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're at $1 million. We do kind of cater to the upper end. So our average listing is 1.2 million, but you know, it's all price points. If you get into the lower price points, you're not seeing as much of the staging anymore, but the, you know, mid to upper, definitely.
Do you think most people do it room by room, or do they do the whole house, or just a particular bedroom, or what do you think is the most common?
We actually target where the buying decisions are made. So the buying decisions are made on the first floor when you walk in. So we tend to really target those areas. So first floor master is what we do.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to see your seller spend any money that they don't have to either. So there's no point in staging to stage. So we've really learned we stage where we're going to make a difference, and you leave everything else alone. So, and sometimes staging isn't even appropriate. So it might even be where they need to do other things. So again, we don't stage to stage, we stage for success. So our goal is to sell it, help the seller, you know, so if they need to do other things before they're staging that sometimes are even more important, we tell them. So we really partner with you as, you know, realtors. So we just kind of have your back. We're kind of team. You know, we kind of create a team environment. So, you know, that again isn't really stage to stage. So, you know,
I look back, and Diane, you probably remember, I mean, a long time ago when we started, when you got a house put on the market, they just did the listing agreement and you were kind of ready to go. Now it's like such a long process.
We used to
you
take
do the listing agreement,
1 hour photos
Yeah, there's so much to
and
do.
paste. Make copies and paste.
Yeah.
We had
There
the
was like
books.
one photo. That was
We had the
it.
MLS books, and we didn't even have computers. We had the MLS books, and every other week they had the supplement.
Right.
I think it's buyer driven now.
And then the MLS took the picture of the front.
Right.
And then you know how you're like, yeah, it was a whole different world.
It's not the agents that are changing the business. I think it's really the buyers that are demanding more. I always call it HGTV syndrome, you know, so really HGTV has told everybody they can have everything day one, turnkey, all for, you know, $1,500, you know, so really it is the buyer that's driving it. They're techier, right? Aren't your millennials a lot techier? So, I mean, I remember when you didn't see the house till you pulled up in front too. So really, and we have many homeowners come to us directly. So they come to us first because HGTV is telling them, hey, do this, this, and this, and then call your agent. So it's surprising how many homeowners come to us first.
You know, Michael, you can speak to this being a home inspector. One thing that a lot of the young buyers, if they want to buy a new home, they think being new, nothing is ever going to happen to that home. You know, they want it as new as possible, where there's home maintenance. And hopefully you as an inspector, as you do the inspection, you're teaching them, kind of grooming them to be ready for, you know, unsuspected things that might happen.
Yeah, we tell everyone, regardless of the house, that, you know, we have never found a perfect house, right? It just doesn't exist. In new construction, the things you're looking for are different, right? Because there's certain issues that would present in a 20-year-old house that a 6-month-old house wouldn't have yet. But you're looking for different things. But yeah, really getting people to understand that, especially people coming from the city who are renters, who are not used to taking on the full responsibility of a house, that we try to brace them for the reality that something will go wrong at some point in time in this house, even if it's brand new. So just brace for that. And if you learn those things, you learn basic home repair techniques and what to look out for. And we try to show them things to watch for in the first couple of years, you know, that a house exists for foundation shifting and things like that. You know, hopefully people will embrace home ownership with a realistic mindset.
Because they don't say that on HGTV.
No, they don't.
Sometimes buyers have to realize that some, like flippers will put lipstick on a pig. And sometimes the dated quality built houses are the better value. They're built better, they're whatever. And it's like paint and carpet is not that expensive versus, I remember one time I sold a house that was pink, bright pink on the outside. And they got a great deal because nobody would even go in the house because it was this bright pink house. And you know what? They got a steal and all, they changed the outside and made a lot of money on it. So a lot of times, they don't realize, people's furniture is going with them. The people who decorate real well and stage and everything else, sometimes they, you can go into a house that, maybe, grandma and grandpa were there, Nathan, and they haven't done anything, how you're like in forever, but they've maintained it. And so sometimes you have to, those are sometimes the better deals.
I agree. I tell my guys, hey, pride of ownership and, a 30-year homeowner versus some of the stuff that's had turnover 3, 4, 5 times in 10 years is probably a better bet. You'd rather fix that, make it cosmetically your own, because that person took care of that home really well. Furnace is great, windows have done, big things have been done, but maybe the kitchen's old, right? Bathroom's old, but it's in great condition. I'd take that home every day versus, one that's been painted,
Right.
So guys, I'm so sorry. This is not about me. I got to bounce out of here. I've got a personal home I'm closing on today. And they moved. Thank you very much. You guys keep rocking out there. Don't get tired.
Nathan,
it was a pleasure talking to you, Nathan.
Hey, Nathan, before you jet, man, let me get a screenshot of everybody smiling super quick. This may or may not be in a future issue of DuPage Real Producers. I might know a guy who can make that.
You know a guy?
I know a guy. Ready? And don't be like my children and smile for like 3 seconds and stop. So when you see me stop smiling, then you stop smiling. We're gonna nail this on the first try. We can do this together. 2, 3, smile. All right, hold it. And I think we got it on the first try. We're good. We're good.
Pete didn't smile real well.
You beat me to it. I was thinking it. But
I'm sorry, Pete, but
he's got agent fatigue.
Yeah.
I was feeling under the weather.
Awesome talking with everybody. Keep rocking out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have a good
Nice meeting you, Nathan.
Bye.
And Nathan, there you go. Nathan told me that before, so that was my fault. But no, I usually time block these for about an hour because it takes a few minutes to sort of get the juices flowing. But I love the conversation. Is there anything that let me just say this: these really started with realtors wanting to get together. So and just wanting to sharpen each other because we used to not do these Facebook Live, and then I had an agent come to me and say, "Hey, let's do this Facebook Live because we're all talking shop." Obviously the people on the call are going to benefit, but why not let it just sort of be, good information and just put it out into the ether. So, this is really for the people on this call, but at the same time, if people are just sort of tuning in or happen to stumble across the feed later, we want it to benefit the field as a whole. So, is there anything else specific that anybody wants to dive into a little bit more?
One thing, I just think it's nice on this call to have, a stager and, a home inspector. That's great. All the people that we network with. We've had attorneys on the calls before, and it just makes the experience a little bit broader for everybody.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody lending support because, as we know, realtors do, they're the boots on the ground. But as we all know, when a real estate transaction's done, I mean, there's a lot of industries that benefit, and the more the partners can lend support, the way I look at it is the more the partners lend support, the more it frees up the realtor to do more transactions, and then everybody benefits. I mean, one can make the argument real estate. I mean, the economy is dictated by real estate. There's a lot of stuff that trickles down, which we all know. So, I think Nathan, who made the projection? He said 18 to 24 months. This whole thing will continue. I mean, assuming rates stay the same.
I think it'll continue for a while.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's interesting that like usually we could set our clocks to from Super Bowl Sunday until kids go back to school and into like Thanksgiving is drink from a fire hose season where it's just more homes moving than you can handle. And it seems it's been really strong, really steady. And how this backlog of buyers, what are they doing? Are they going to go rent now? Like, or are they just going to wait until, the not hot season to try and buy? Or I'm trying, it's interesting trying to figure out how that's going to go.
The rental market's hard too. So you don't get very much for what you pay. So much better to buy.
Yeah,
I'm just nervous that 2008 might happen again. I just don't want that to happen again. That the prices go up so much and then, it's not worth it anymore. Hopefully that won't happen.
Well, I think they're watching lending, how where before you're breathing, okay, you get a loan,
Right.
Oh, you don't have a job. Oh, we have a program for that, how 0 down and all that. I think they learned their lesson.
Yeah, hopefully that was a terrible period.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are worried about this truly being a bubble. And I think the moment that COVID actually happened, all the suburbs gained true value. That's going to be, a lasting impression. I'm not as much concerned about it, exploding as other people are, because I think every house gained between $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 of value because they have space, and people in the city want that space to, have a little bit more room for a second office or for their kids, when they're coming from tighter quarters.
And interest rates are so low. So think about it, even if prices go down, interest rates could go up, and they're paying the same amount for less of a house.
Yeah, it seems
so how they got it in a good interest rate. So if interest rates go up, even if they lose value, they're still doing pretty well, in my opinion.
Hope so.
Do you think that might change for Chicago now that we're starting to open up and everyone's going back to work, as far as lightening the load in the suburbs and people continue purchasing and staying in Chicago versus fleeing?
I think people are still shell shocked about what happened in Chicago.
So
I mean, they're still in that, hey, I can work. I know, like, my daughter's working from home, and so is my husband. And there's no projection to go back. She works for Ace Hardware, and they had 3 buildings in Oak Brook. Two of them are they're not going to lease anymore. They're only going to lease 1, and everybody's going to be working from home. Basically, they saw it was successful.
Yeah,
cost effective.
We have some River North listings right now, and I'm not even getting calls on them for showings at all. Nobody's interested in them, and I think has a lot to do with just nobody going into the office. As soon as some of these companies start to get back in and go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then we can see the pace pick up a little bit. But until that happens, it's pretty bizarre to see, River North, historically the nicest, most prominent area in Chicago that people want to live. People aren't even interested in that at all right now. It seems like it's crazy.
We've had a big pickup of staging there. So we have recently started going into the city, and for that reason, they're having a little harder time selling them. So we've probably, been doing 2-3 properties there a month in the, downtown River North area. It's true, but they're still selling. I find it funny that not everything is selling. So everybody's like, oh, multiple offers, everything's going off, fine stuff. There is still houses that are still not selling. So, so sometimes, we, they need to be individually, helped, but.
Yeah, I'm also curious to see how like the boundaries kind of reshuffle, right? Because there's always like certain markets that are always hot all the time. Like Naperville's always highly transient community, people moving in all the time. Downers Grove, a lot of people moving. Now with people coming out of Chicago, is this going to continue to move west or southwest, or what are going to be the new hot spots as this kind of all starts to settle, where people trying to just find a house wherever they can get it?
Yeah, because I just sold a house in St. Charles. That's way out there, but I could see where if you don't have to commute to the city, why wouldn't you want to be out there, have more acreage? If you're a horse person, have a horse. So you probably will see more migration, further west. Oswego, Yorkville, all those places west of Naperville.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw a stat that I think it was 30% of people would look for a new job if they had to go back in the office for 5 days in a row, post COVID. So I really think that we're going to have there's going to be a lasting shift of, where people are truly living if you're only going to be going in 2-3 days a week. People aren't going to be living close to rail lines to get into the city and commute with the train if they can go out a little bit further west and have more land and a cheaper property and a nicer home.
Yeah.
I have a rule in my head. I just count to like 15, 1,000 in my head. I'm totally fine with silence, just as we get we get sort of wheels turning. I mean, this is awesome. I mean, we got maybe 10, 15 minutes or so. What are some things that everybody's doing to set like buyer and seller expectations? Because it's kind of a domino effect where if you have a seller and they have to find a new place, obviously we just talked about, a few people had stuff fall out just recently. What are you guys doing to set those expectations? Like you have that initial conversation with that client or that prospect who's looking to buy. What does that look like?
You do have to prep the buyer a lot to, say, what is the most you're willing to pay for this house?
Yeah, and I think
willing to pay that.
Past deal stories too. You say you worked with a client that lost out on 3 within a week or 2 weeks, and they start to understand, it's really tough to get a house. You got to be very aggressive. If you're in it, you're in it.
I get questioned a lot, like, is this a good investment? Will I make money on this house? And, I learned after going through 2008, where you can't say that because you don't know what's going to happen. Will they make money? So my whole mantra now is with buyers when they're buying a house, I say, you got to buy a house that's going to be the perfect house for your family. You have to love it in your heart. You have to enjoy living there, and don't quit your day job, because you're not going to make your money on selling your house. You're going to make your money on working hard, and your house is your enjoyment and where you want your family to be. So that's kind of what I tell the buyers.
Yeah, I 100% agree, Diane. I think people have kind of expect to get rich off of their primary residence, and I don't think it's ever been the case. I mean, it might increase in value over 15, 20 years, but it's not going to make you wealthy, No,
but we did see that prior to 2008, when people, like 2000, 2001, they sold their house in 2 years and they made $100,000. It was crazy. And then it stopped with 2008, thankfully. But, especially when you work with buyers where they are paying a lot more to get in the house, they need to know they're buying it for their family. You may not sell it for the same thing later on, but you've enjoyed it for 10 years or however long you're going to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll do a rent versus owned and see how much they saved from owning the house versus renting it. Because that's always amazing.
But you know what, Diane, my client in Hinsdale who bought their house before 2008, they did a rent to own, and they said to me, you know what, Diana, we're losing $400,000. So we should have rented the house, but
that's unusual.
It's unusual, but it's all those people that bought, pretty expensive houses before 2008, hopefully that's going by the wayside now, but a lot of people lost money.
So one thing that I feel like it keeps picking up steam and is continuously in the news is this iBuying or, virtual buying, or even buying without seeing the home. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Do you think it's going to last or stick around for a little bit? I feel like it doesn't really impact at least the Western market, the Western burbs like we're doing business in.
I think sometimes I just talked to an agent where sometimes it's, if you're in a dual offer and one, he hasn't seen the house, I kind of lean towards the person who saw a house, because she had one when they came in and then they backed out when they saw the house. So I think, I think if I'm in a multiple offer and I'm the listing agent, I'm gonna really sway towards somebody that saw the house, because, there's a lot of risk, unless if you're the listing agent, if somebody hasn't seen a house.
Well, and also sometimes you get the one spouse who's seen it, but the other spouse
We have
hasn't.
different taste.
Yeah, because remember, we did contingency.
Oh, yeah, and spouse approval.
Yeah.
Happens at home inspections all the time where they both show up and the one's like, what were you thinking?
A lot of times the spouses have different tastes. Like one wants a Victorian and one wants a modern. And it's
That's why I say
you
they
guys-
both
you
have to
gotta
see
get
it.
together. What?
That's why I've had people where, the wife is gonna look, I'm like, no, you can pick out houses and he'll go look at the finals. I'm like, no, that's the same if you have parents that are gonna make a decision. Have the parents come and see what you've seen, because then you pick a house and they come see it and go, oh my God, you bought it for how much? And you're thinking, you didn't see the dogs that they eliminated. And they're like, oh my God, I bought my house for 50,000 and this house is, 500. So, how you have to, those making decisions is see the houses so that they appreciate what they bought, so, and I at least want to, at the first time, have both the husband and wife and see that they're on the same page. If they're on the same page, then okay, fine. But otherwise, it could be a nightmare. So
That's so true. So true.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. My wife and I never disagree. So I don't know if you guys are sorry, Chase, you're about to say something.
Lucky you.
Go ahead, my
You
friend.
got a good one then, Andy.
Yeah. 4 kids. That never happens, right? We're well. Go ahead, Chase.
Mine is just learn to agree. So that's what's happened at my house.
When I found my house, I told my husband, I go, what do you think? And I go, well, I told him that I like this house and you have to live with me. So, and so we bought the house, but
I'm curious about a comment that Pete put in there, and I don't know if anybody's seeing in the chat, but in 2000, he thinks that, I don't know if you can talk, Pete, but the 2008 would happen again. And but not only because of this, but because of the PPP loans. So I'm curious what he means by the PPP loans. And I mean, because that was really more for the small businesses. I'm not sure if anybody in the real estate world is got into that or not, but I'd be curious to see. I don't know can you talk, Pete? Maybe not.
If you are talking, Pete, you are muted. So I just want to let you know that. But if you can't talk, all good.
Yeah, and Margaret, I haven't heard of too many people accepting the PPP loans or even being offered them. I haven't come across that much at all.
how about forbearance
Yeah.
on houses? That's another thing that we'll have to deal with when all
Mhm.
that comes up.
Nathan brought up earlier, about the appraisal gap. Is there anything that you guys are doing to put into place to anticipate this happening, or are you expecting it to happen? What are you telling people?
It's happening a lot. And I think in a multiple offer situation where the house's price, it's going way over, you have to have a buyer you have to put in writing that the buyer's willing to put more down if indeed it does not appraise. That will make up the difference. Because if one will do it and one won't, if you lose the buyer and, the appraisers have not caught up.
Yeah, and I think that's the toughest situation is appraisers are going off of the past sales from 6 months or 12 months ago. And, that's not what the market is right now.
Right.
It's not nearly what it is right now. So it's a meeting of the minds in that sense, but I feel like they need to be a little bit more up to date on and
Right.
at least future looking.
And
Yeah,
they've
if
got
you
to
find
look at
people willing
the
to pay
ones on
over
the
that,
contract.
Yeah,
it's gotta
exactly.
be, but
They have to look at the ones under contract for sure and try to
They're
speak to
not.
those.
It's very frustrating. I had one under appraised, and I'm not in your price point, Diana. So think about this. I had one under appraised by 120,000.
Mm.
Wow.
We're not
Yeah.
talking $1 million property.
Hmm.
So it was tough, you know how, but
So
But-
in a house that's 300,000, let's say 300, 350, which seems to be the average price point, I think in Illinois, in fact, what do people, how much do they go over sometimes?
it depends on the house, but I've seen, 20, 30,000 over. And, the thing is, it's not gonna, a lot of times it's not gonna appraise. And so you have to have a buyer who's willing to come up with the difference.
Because they could be in a subdivision where all those houses are pretty similar. You know,
Right.
take
And
a
there's no
farming
way
Dale
to
and
appraise
Derry.
it.
Yeah.
Mm.
So but buyers are willing to pay it. That's the thing. If
And just
5
like-
people are gonna go way over list price, that is a, real value.
Yeah, it's not like Diane said, it's not like there's this one outlying buyer that really wants a house. There's 5 or 6 waiting in the wings that are all willing to pay that 30, 40,000 over list price. And that's the struggle. When you talk to these, appraisers, they say it's not worth that, but there's 7 people right here that are saying it's worth that to them.
Right.
So
It's very
it's-
frustrating. And have you guys been working with escalation clauses too?
yeah, it seems like that's pretty much like a norm, a standard nowadays.
But I
Yeah.
laugh if everybody's in an escalating clause, hey, you
Yeah.
got to come with a price because everybody's in an escalating clause.
Yeah.
So,
It is a fun time. I remember growing up, and this is a very basic analogy. I'm, collecting baseball cards as a kid. And I'd be like, Dad, this Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card's worth, $75 or whatever. And he's like, well, who paid you $75 for it? I'm like, nobody. But that's what it says. That's what the book says it's worth.
mhm.
And he's like, well, if you can get $75 for it, great. And then in my head, I'm like, well, if I could get 100, then it's worth 100. And he's like, you're right. So I just had this like moment as a kid, and that's what we're in right now. It's like, yeah, if there's this book says it's worth $100 and you got 5 people lining up the door that are willing to pay 150 for it, well,
And that's where I feel bad for the first time buyers who don't have a lot of money. They can't make up the difference. You know how you have to get very creative of how can they make up the difference? And
Yeah.
why would a listing agent accept you over somebody who can make up the difference? I mean,
Yeah, and they're typically the ones with a little bit weaker financing as well. So
Right.
it kind of pigeonholes them and only having a chance at a few properties comparatively.
right. And it's frustrating,
And maybe
Yeah, it
that's
is.
a conversation you have to have with them starting out,
Oh, absolutely.
about parents, maybe parents can help or something.
But like we said before, the rental market is also, there's some pretty good deals out there. So for those first-time buyers or soon-to-be first-time buyers, it's not the worst time ever just to take a 16-month lease and save a little bit more money for a bigger down payment. And then, we'll see where we are, recalibrate in 2 years.
But Chase, sometimes it's hard to save when you see the rental prices.
Yeah, it
You know
just
how
depends.
it's you know how it's hard because those rental prices for what you get isn't it's hard to save when you're a first time person.
It definitely seems like they're back on the rise, at least in the city and some of the stuff in Downers.
Yeah.
They're heading
Yeah.
back up north. And I agree with you. If you're at, a 2-bedroom for $2,500, it makes it just about as hard as making a down payment, paying your mortgage monthly.
And there's a big push for rentals, from people that are selling their big house and they're going to move to Florida, but they're not retiring yet. So they are going to do a rental for a year. You're seeing those people plus like a younger buyer. So, I mean, the rental market must be really busy.
Oh, yeah.
it is. Hey, in the spirit of, I know you guys are all successful entrepreneurs, and just to be respectful of everybody's time. I mean, we got maybe a minute or two. So yeah, I want to give you a chance. I know you talked a little bit in
Good
the
seeing
beginning. but-
everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there anything that you want to add as we wrap up? Maybe ask realtors how, what their thoughts are on, how they can kind of make your world easier on the home warranty side.
Well, like I mentioned, it's definitely been a journey the last few months being a seller's market. It definitely helps when my clients, just educate educate their clients that they do have that option, you know, that after they purchase the home, they can get that warranty provided they have, you know, Michael's home inspection.
Yeah, I learned something new today. I didn't know that you had to have a home inspection before you did the home warranty.
For the real estate plans, yes, you definitely want to make sure they have that.
Well, hey, we're on time. I mean, you guys know the drill. I'm going to cut the live feed in 3, 2. There we go. Live feed's over. I appreciate you guys. If you want to get on another one of these in a month or two, shuffle the deck, get some different realtors partners on. You know, I am happy to coordinate and run quarterback on these. It's always fun talking to people, and God willing, we'll see each other in person. I'm not
Get
not gonna
better,
put it-
Pete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God bless you,
Hey,
sir.
Chase.
Yep.
Are you Patty's son?
Yep.
Oh.
We've been
I
working
love
together for about
Patty.
6 years now. Yeah.
You're what?
We've been working together for about 6 years now. I was
Oh,
in commercial first, and then she was doing residential, and I joined up with her, you know, teamed up about
Oh.
5.
well, nice to meet you. She
Yeah,
just
it's nice to
sold
meet
one
you
of my
too.
listings in Hinsdale, and I just thought about her, and you know,
Yeah, we'll have to all go out and get a drink together.
yeah,
Works for
sounds
me.
good.
I love
right.
I love
All
the
right.
camaraderie.
Talk to you
But yeah,
later.
I will send
Andy,
the
we
links
appreciate
out.
your time.
Yeah, man. I'll send the
Great
links
job
out.
setting this up.
Bye-bye.
Everybody has everybody's info if you want to connect after. Have a productive day,
Awesome.
everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Much.
Adios.